have a little injury, so I can't work out my legs, so I'm using the arms on this bike. Spent just over an hour and a half this morning swimming, just pulling, not even kicking, so just doing what you can do. Right after the Olympic trials, had a bone injury leading into the Olympic trials, so I thought afterwards, I was like, all right, let's get back to training. Tried to really push and get some speed back. Just doing some hilly runs, doing some strides. I tore my rectus femoris muscle, like almost from tip to tip, almost all the way down. And I was just like, I was in so much pain. And I thought, oh, it's a muscle injury, you know? You can run through muscle things. And I was just stupid. You can't, like, if it hurts that bad, it's your body telling you to slow down. So the other day I was doing some 400s and 200s. Felt a little bit of that pain, so I was like, all right, call it for a few days. Talked to the same doctor, and he's like, yeah, don't run for 4 days, so don't even put like pressure on it, don't do anything that would hurt it. So I'm doing a lot of arms. No matter what you're doing, there's always a chance you're gonna get hurt. It's my belief, at least if you're working hard. I don't know how you could ever stay healthy, like, completely.
16 days away from the Houston Half Marathon. Why did you decide to race this?
Why did I decide to run Houston?
In the world of professional running, greatness is measured in fractions of a second, razor-thin margins that separate the victor from the forgotten. It's a sport where the clock is merciless, and the smallest misstep can rewrite the narrative of an entire season. But those margins, as slim as they are, aren't just about the stopwatch. They exist in every stride, every breath, every decision. And sometimes those margins aren't yours to control. An athlete spends months, even years, preparing for a moment, calibrating their body, mind, and spirit to peak on a single day. Yet the fickle nature of this pursuit means that perfection is never guaranteed. An untimely injury, a sudden surge in fitness, or the lingering shadow of doubt can send the carefully laid race schedule into chaos. One day, the finish line seems within reach. The next, it's a distant dream.
Yeah, marathon training is definitely walking the line.
It's a game of precision in a world of uncertainty. But for those who embrace the turmoil, who find courage in the unpredictability, the margins become more than just numbers. They become the very reason to chase, to suffer, and sometimes to fall short.
I can show up and day in and day out do what I need to, and I'll be ready to go.
Because in that space between the planned and the possible lies the essence of what it means to truly compete. This is the road to Houston. As Connor Mantz deals with an unexpected minor injury, his training partner, Clayton Young, decides he too wants in on the Houston action.
Why did I decide to run Houston? Yeah, I think there was like a lot of hype about this race, like a lot of big dogs wanting to chase fast times in that race. And at first I was really nervous because, I don't know, I was like, it's so soon after the big year that I've had. It's not perfect timing for a spring marathon. And I don't know, I had a lot of ego as well. I was like, do I really want to put my ego on the line? I love the idea of head-to-head rivalries. You know, I haven't raced Joe Klecker in a long time. I love the idea of racing him. Like, I'm always measuring myself with other athletes, especially Connor, day in and day out. And so when he kind of said, I'm going to go for it, I was like, oh man, a little bit of FOMO, right? I didn't want to be left out. So took my time deciding, but 16 days out and I'm all in.
Enter late race entry Clayton Young, the 2019 NCAA 10,000-meter champion and a quiet force in the distance running scene. Training alongside Mantz in the high-altitude haven of Utah, Young brings a steady and deliberate energy to the mix. Where Mantz thrives on raw intensity, Young balances the equation with calculated efficiency and a deep understanding of his craft.
Yeah, if you look at like the history of my marathoning, right? So Olympic trials in 2020, 2 hours, 29 minutes, 136th place. And then you go to 2 hours and 16 minutes, 2 hours and 13 minutes, 2 hours, 11 minutes and 51 seconds. And everyone just crash and burn, crash and burn, crash and burn. So going into 2024, like, yes, I had that one good marathon where I hit the Olympic standard and I was on this high, but I'd had more bad marathons than good marathons. So the consistency that I was able to show over 2024 was something special. There's a lot that can go wrong in a marathon, whether that's training for it or during or traveling or fueling. So like I've definitely been able to control the variables of the marathon better and better every time.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I would say since you guys were last here, we've gotten into really like the meat of the hard workouts, kind of the final prep. A lot of the stuff on paper looked pretty hard, and so it was like intimidating, but yeah, it went like as good as I could have hoped for.
Houston isn't just a head-to-head race. It's a stage where America's best, each with unique strengths and philosophies, will converge.
I think to be ready for the half marathon, it's so much just base training, and so that's something I had to get used to, was Dathan telling me, look, like a lot of this stuff that we normally do in base training is like kind of what is the specific work for the half marathon. So it's a little different that it's only been a few weeks of like really hard stuff. Once we've started that, that's kind of when it's really started to feel like we're getting close to racing. I've been training now for about 6 months, and the first basically 4 to 5 months have just been a typical buildup. And then like all of a sudden it was like, okay, now we're gonna do a couple workouts where we're trying to mimic, parts of that race. And so it's come quick, but the base training has like set me up well to handle that work.
Definitely excited to race the half, and I'm a little nervous. I haven't raced a half since 2021, the United States Half Marathon Champs. In fact, I've only raced 2 in my career.
Clayton Young is coming off the best season of his life, finishing runner-up at the U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials and 9th place at the Paris Olympic Games.
Yeah, it was kind of an exciting mindset because I'd made my first Olympic team, right? And then it was, okay, do we just want to show up and say, we're happy to be there, or do we really want to compete? But, thanks to Connor, and also I think my own competitiveness, like I knew that I wanted an honest go at it, right? And so that training block, Connor and I really dialed in, and we hit heat and humidity and hills harder than ever, and also some quality sessions. We kind of set the goal beforehand, like, okay, top 20, good day, top 10, great day, podium, that's definitely on our mind. In all the previous Olympic marathons, 2:08 will get you on the podium. And so we were targeting that 2:08 time and pacing based off of that time and our effort. And by about halfway, as we crested the top of the first hill, I was spent. And I honestly was like, okay, today's a good day. And I was almost gonna be like, okay, I'm in the top 20, let's just pack it in. And like, this is beautiful, crowds are amazing. I hurt really bad. But then as we came around by the Palace of Versailles, like the mindset kind of shifted, and I was in this chase pack, and I was like, do or die, now or never, let's go with him. And so I could see Connor just ahead, and so he would pass a guy, and then I would pass a guy, and he would pass a guy, and then I would pass a guy, and it was kind of really exciting. But then with about 3 miles to go, I realized we're not going to catch anybody else. Like, where is everybody? Like, we were just like, where is everybody? And they never came. I asked Connor, what place did we take? What place did we take? He said 8th and 9th. And I was like, sweet, top 10, great day. But then we ran into Coach Eyestone, and I asked him, what time did we run? I had no idea. What time did we run? And he said 2:08. I was like, we ran 2:08. Like, we did what we thought we could do. We executed our plan. And that was, like, I could be proud in that moment.
As Clayton is honing his speed for race day, Joe is beginning to dream.
I think after these past couple hard workouts, I've started to like think about the race a lot more, just because when you're just doing long runs and tempo runs and fartlegs, it's not race specific, and it's hard to really picture it. But with some of these past workouts where it's like, okay, we want to go run 4:30 pace, or we're running like a 4:20 mile, where you're picturing how is that going to feel in a race. Yeah, I think that just comes down to being in this system for a while and trusting that it's worked for me over the years, and seeing how well it's worked for all my teammates. Just knowing that if you do what's set for you in the workouts and training, like, you're going to be ready to go. That gives me a lot of comfort too, like feeling like I don't have to over push stuff. I can just show up and day in and day out do what I need to, and I'll be ready to go. Right now, I think the half marathon is like maybe a little more in my wheelhouse than some of these guys, because a fast half marathon, it's pretty close to 10K pace. Like 4:30 pace is pretty close to like 4:20, which is 10K. If we were to go race the full marathon in 2 weeks, like, I don't think I'd be like Connor and Clayton, and those guys would just be very confident in themselves. So them coming to the half marathon, even though I haven't raced one, they have. That's where I think that it evens it. But I think the half marathon is more like a 10K, in the 10K wheelhouse. So that's where I feel really confident, but I know that they have the experience of like having done half marathons before.
That was priority number one for him. Yeah, by your teammates. Yeah.
Yeah, I think through 6 miles, you're gonna have a ton of people. Like, just based off what I've talked to with Dayton, like, anyone can kind of fake it for 6 miles. I was actually talking with Noah Dradi this morning. He was explaining the course to me a little bit, and he said from 8 to 10 miles, the course actually is probably the most challenging section. It's a fast course, but he said that's when it starts to get a little challenging. So I think 8 to 10 miles, it'll start to split up. But I'm really hoping like we can get to like 11 or 12 and still have at least like 3 or 4 guys.
You're supposed to run.
I want to run the same.
Okay. All right, here we go. Ready, go.
I've established myself as a great American marathoner, you could say, but to keep that longevity in this sport, I think the more I can, push the envelope, that ceiling, that quick turnover, that speed, the better. Like, I don't want to get stuck in forever defaulting to marathon pace. And so, yeah, this will test my limits a little bit, and I kind of get the best of both worlds, where I get to be excited about it, kind of have no pressure. I'm a late add to the field, but I think I can do well. And I think, old Clayton before 2024, he was killing it on the roads. You look at my 2023 season, US 8K champs, US 10K champ, US 20K champ. And so, like, that was my wheelhouse before Clayton the marathoner.
Clayton's journey is one of patience and persistence. As a professional runner balancing family life, he represents a different facet of the sport, one that demands not just physical strength, but also mental acuity and adaptability.
When it comes to Strava, I don't follow any other pro athlete besides CJ. And it's not like super intense, it's not like I'm like purposely. Truthful I am with myself and what I put out with other people, whether that's Strava or Instagram or YouTube, like that's sustainable, and I can't lie to myself. But at the same time, like, yeah, it is a weird day and age, like which pros decide to be on social media and which pros decide to stop posting because of, you know, competition or injuries, or I don't know, like their inability to handle the comparison. I've been a victim of it for sure, but I think I've struck a good balance. Specifically before the Olympic trials, like, yeah, like I was fighting the competitive demons. You're seeing what all these athletes are doing, and all these up and coming athletes. Like, I had to be very intentional those last couple of weeks going into the Olympic trials to just build my own confidence.
Whether he's standing on the starting line in Houston with Mantz beside him or not, Young will bound forward when the gun sounds with the same outlook he always brings to race day. Another competition, another opportunity to test and prove himself against the country's and world's fastest. With Mantz potentially out of the race, little would change for Young with so few days until Houston.
The nice thing is, like, Connor's one of the greatest measuring sticks of fitness. And I can usually tell how fit I am relative to Connor and know I'm going to be okay.
Today I was actually looking forward to running with Connor and practicing just keeping contact, because that's what I'm going to have to do in Houston. But it's just too bad that he wasn't here today. I think that might have been my best 4x2 mile session, to be honest. But at the same time, conditions were amazing. That last probably half mile I was just visualizing the finish line of the Houston half, to be honest.
An overnight ice storm has hit Boulder, forcing Joe to make a decision. Stick to the scheduled plan or push the tempo to another day? For Joe, the choice is easy. He is a Minnesotan after all.
Really trying to visualize like how I want it to go. At that point, like, the training's done. There's nothing you can do like physically. You know the field, you know what the pace is set to be. And so I think you have the clearest picture you're gonna have until the race actually starts of like how it could go. You know the weather, and so you have like your plan. That's probably what I'm like playing through mostly, but realizing you can't be like too strict to it, and you got to be like ready to adapt on the day. But it gives you comfort like going through the motions of like how could this go. I think when you do everything right, you're actually like a little further from that edge. Like you're so consistent. You're not pushing for things. You have that time to get in shape. And that's where I feel like I am now. Like the last 6 months have been very methodical, and like I've never felt like I'm pushing to the edge. Then you're struggling. Then you're like fighting for it. You're like pushing for reps. You're pushing for splits. And you're like kind of behind the 8 ball. That's when I feel like it's risky, you know? But if everything is planned perfectly, which I feel like right now we're in a good spot, I don't feel like I'm like pushing to the edge. The hope is that to get the American record, I'll have to win. You know, I'm hoping that there's people that are also pushing for that. Up until like, you know, the last time we met, I think it was a little more unclear in my mind. Like, I don't know what it takes to run 59:40, but with some of these past few workouts, I can see it as like a real possibility to put that as a target to go for. You know, we did some 3-mile reps, and Dathan was hoping I could run around 4:40. He would think that that'd be a good indication I could break 60. I think we were closing them out in like 4:20 and feeling good. Anyone can like push for like paces in a workout. You can kill yourself to go run something, but I think when you know the effort that it took to like do a workout, I think that's more indicative of like than what the actual pace is. Everything goes right. I really expect that I can go get that, and so like it just to me would justify like this training is right. Like, we're on the right track. And ultimately, this is moving towards the marathon. To me, it would just tell me we're on track with that goal of like getting there, because I'm not going to go to the marathon until I'm really ready. That's one thing that Dathan has like made very clear. And so mainly I want to like go get this record because it just show me that I'm on the track to like go to that marathon. Because I want to move up. Like, I love the track and I want to have another good year on the track, but I want to move to the marathon. I don't want it to be like a year from now and be like, yeah, we're getting close, but we're not there yet, you know? So it would just show me we're on the right track.
With another successful workout behind him, Joe is one step closer to showing the world that he is back. For Clayton, his workout day is far from over. Still building fitness after the New York City Marathon, the weight room awaits.
I've been really intentional and lucky, honestly, the last year or two, working with my strength and conditioning coach, because, you know, he's been able to pull me out of a lot of injuries that I used to have in my career. And I'm probably the strongest I've ever been from an injury standpoint. In some ways, I'm so lucky to have BYU and Connor Mantz to train with. They push you to your limits, but sometimes they push you past your limits, right? We can get kind of competitive, and Connor and I's relationship is really fascinating, to be honest. Like, yes, we're good friends, we're teammates, and we have a lot of the same beliefs and values, but we're very competitive. Sometimes I have to let him go, and sometimes he has to let me go, and it's not perfect, like any relationship, but like we've learned as we work through it that we're better because of it. I know when Connor's hurting, I know when so-and-so is hurting, and I know what their racing style is like. I have a deep amount of respect for both Joe and Morgan, and you know what they've been able to do on the track. But you know, experience is on my side, strength is my weapon, and it's kind of cool that we all get to come in and just like be like, okay, guys, let's go, and let's see what we can do. I think that lead pack is something that's so unique to professional marathoners. You got the Connor Mantzes that are pushing from the front, that just want to go, 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 that have little regard for pace. And then you have me that's like trying to respond as slow as possible to every move, trying to figure out which moves are real and which ones are fake. And then for me personally, like, I'm a big data junkie, so I know the courses better than anybody, guaranteed.
But now, with Mantz's confidence and health on the upswing and Young's fitness coming to a refined, sharpened point, the dynamic shifts yet again. Plenty of confidence can be gained knowing exactly what your chief competition is doing each day. That's especially true when it's the exact same gut-busting workout as you. That's no problem for Young, whose race plan and mentality have both remained fluid, ready to fit around whatever form race day ultimately takes. It just means the battle up front may be slightly more crowded. All the better in the eyes of these competitors.
We continue with our elite field in the Aramco Men's Half Marathon. We welcome Joe Klecker to the stage. And finally, we welcome Connor Mantz today. You have said publicly that record could fall sometime soon. Given the field, given what you know about the weather, could that record fall on Sunday?
I've seen the field, and there's people in this race who have run faster than that record, and so if I go in there and try and win, and if I feel good, push for it, I think it's possible. Some of the stuff I've done in training, I believe, indicates that it's a doable goal, but yeah, in a half marathon, there's a lot of variables, and so I think we'll just see what the day gives us.
What's possible here this weekend with this elite field?
Well, with this elite field, there's a ton that's possible. I think the American record could go down, and that's part of the reason I wanted to come here is, I know this is a fast course, and, you got Morgan and Joe and plenty of other really good Americans running here, so it's like, I want to be in that race, whether I'm ready or not. Just decided, pretty much when I heard that Joe was running it, I was like, all right, I want to be in this race. Like, if he's going to go out and run like 59:30, I want to be there to try and beat him so I can be the one that takes the record. But yeah, I really don't know what's possible, but something big could happen.
One day. That's all that separates talk from action, potential from proof. The Houston Half Marathon is no longer a distant target on the calendar. It's here, waiting, and it demands everything. 3 athletes, 3 journeys. After months of preparation, on January 19th, the streets of Houston will bear witness to their grit, determination, and perseverance. Because in the end, it's not just a race, it's a test of endurance, a test of character, and a test of who can rise to the occasion when the stakes are at their highest.